entrepreneur. Welcome to Daily Wisdom. We spend 10, 15 minutes daily and we talk about some principles to help you achieve results and incredible things in your life. Specifically, we're going through a series on how to achieve quantum leap results in your life, in your businesses, in your finances. And especially as we kick off 2023, I think all of us, we probably have goals. Right? I want you to think today, what do you really want? What's the top thing that you want? What would success absolutely look like in 2023? What would boggle your mind? Because a quantum leap, to define it, is having results that are just so amazing that without apparent effort, you're able to make measurable, immeasurable leaps. So we're talking about principles of how to have a quantum leap. And to give you the short thing, it deals heavily with how you think. But how do you think properly? I had a friend say, mindset, of course, but what does that mean? And how do you actually go through that? So if you stick with us day by day, I promise you, you're going to achieve some incredible results in your life. So if that sounds interesting, like this, share this, subscribe to our YouTube. We put this and all of our other replays of this as well too. But I want us to think about what you really want for this year of 2023. And I want to give you some principles and things to expect. Now going through this and studying this material, I've realized that there are some things that always come up. Good morning. That is, if you don't know they're coming or if you don't know how to overcome them, then you're going to be stuck every single time you try to go for a big, big goal. And here's a principle in life. Every single time you make a big decision, there will be opposition. I got to just cut it straight to you. I don't like it being that way. Now, I'm probably like you. I like things to be easy. I like things to be simple. I don't like things to be hard. But the reality is this: whenever you make a big decision, you take a stand, you take a business goal, you have a financial goal, you make a commitment. Have you noticed that life tends to test you? Put a 1 in the chat if that's happened for you. You want to have the most amazing business, and boom, something smacks you that might not even be related to your business, for example. Life happens, doesn't it? And we have to understand, why does this happen? Why does this happen? And what can we do to overcome this? In fact, personally, I'll tell you, as we're going through quantum leaps this year, we have major, major goals, huge leaps in our business. We're launching a book that we've never done before. We're launching a huge brand. Like, there's a lot of things that we're doing that we want to accomplish this year. And as we launch it, just like all of us here, we've made declarations. We want to go for it. And guess what? It's always right on time. And just as early as last night, for me, this is what tends to happen, is it tends to be that there's a huge fight for me and my wife. Like, that just happens. It's happened every single time. It's happened so often now where I'm like, okay, I've noticed that this is kind of how I get tested. Now, you might get tested different, right? Maybe it's you and it's a limiting belief. Maybe it's you and a friend. Maybe it's you and it's a health situation. Maybe it's you and you get distracted. Maybe it's you and you get frustrated. You're very self-deprecating on yourself, right? Verify to yourself and confirm, what are the things that really tend to hold you back when you make a big decision, right? So what happens every single time when we make these big decisions is we get into a fight. We get into a disagreement and we have some deep, deep discussions, right? And before, I would be crippled by these things. Before, we would be up until the wee hours of night, and maybe you've had that before in your life as well too. Feelings would be hurt. We both get super, super tired, and all these different things. But this is what I started to realize, that these are truths that happened out there. So what actually happens? What are the things? In fact, if you have something in your mind that you know tends to happen, I'd love for you to share in the comments, what's something that tends to block you? What's something that tends to happen when you make this big decision in your life? Because these are principles. There's an opposition in this world. You can call it good and evil. You can call it God and the enemy. You can call it just the mind working. But here's a principle that I want to share with you. Bob Proctor, who is the foremost mindset coach, calls this the terror barrier. And if you understand how this works and you understand what happens and you understand what to do to overcome it, then every single time you go for a quantum leap, this won't be scary, but you're going to just trample right there. How does this work? Okay. So you got to understand how your mind works and make it very, very simple. The mind is two parts, conscious and subconscious. Conscious is what we think about, subconscious is what we believe. And our minds and our actual lives are controlled more by what we aren't consciously thinking about. They're controlled by what we're subconsciously thinking about. So this is what happens. I'm sharing with you a quick visual here. Our conscious, you're putting in a new thought, a new goal, a new idea. We call this the Y type idea. The subconscious is programmed a certain way. Let's call it money. Let's call it money. Let's say your mind is programmed to think $50,000 a year, and you're saying, I want to 10x my money this year. You're saying, I want to make 500 grand. Okay, this is what happens. You set out the new goal. You're super excited. You're motivated by the new year. You're like, let's go, new year, new me. Okay, what do? You're consciously thinking about the new goal. You're fired up. You make the decision. But what happens is your subconscious mind has not yet been reprogrammed. So if you've heard the saying, old habits die hard, you can consciously want to do something, but then what happens is your subconscious fights you, doesn't it? Let's say in a relationship, you want to be a loving spouse. You want to say, I love you more. And you're intending on doing that, but old habits die hard and you just don't do it as much. So this is what happens. Inevitably, every single time you go for a quantum leap, is your conscious mind fights with your subconscious. And while you really mean well, what happens every single time is the subconscious hits you. And it's like, no. Let's not do this. I like being comfortable. I like being where I was. I like thinking the way that I was, doing the things that I was, just being the way that I am. Remember, if you want a quantum leap in your life, if you're trying to grow, you are literally going the opposite direction of how our lives and our bodies tend to want to be. Have you noticed? Here's a principle of nature. Have you noticed in life that if you leave something by itself, it just decays? Right? If you leave something by itself, it just goes to like in a negative direction. It's called law of entropy. It's an actual physical law, right? Things tend to go into a negative direction. So when you're aiming to grow in life, when you're aiming to have a quantum leap in life, just know that everything that's worthwhile, as John Maxwell says, is uphill. It's uphill. It's not downhill, right? It just know that this is a principle. You're growing. You are becoming someone different. So when you're making a decision to go towards a quantum leap, the bigger that you make a decision, the more your subconscious is going to try to pull you back. So it's going to happen inevitably every single time as challenge and struggle and opposition comes. Boom. So what do you do in these situations? Let's reprogram our response to this. When that inevitable challenge, in fact, if you've already had a challenge this year, put a 2 in the chat. You had a challenge, a struggle, an opposition, something that didn't go according to plan. You got frustrated. It was crazy. Like things just happened, right? Whether things in your control or not in your control, these things happen. So what do? Instead of being frustrated by this, Jim Rohn says, become fascinated. So next time that this happens, it's going to happen to you today probably, right? Just look at this and Jim Rohn says, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So here we are, me and my wife are fighting, we're talking, we're discussing, and we have good logical fights, but she's a good fighter, you know. She's real straight up with things. And we're sitting there, and as we're going through this discussion, I used to fight back. I used to just be a turtle and not say anything. And now you know what I do? We talk, right? We discuss things out. I know that these things happen. I know that the terror barrier is coming and it's trying to hold you back from your potential. So what happens is I sit there, and as we're talking, I then bring this up. I'm like, hey, babe, isn't this interesting? You know what's happening? Now I become fascinated by this situation. I'm like, this is right on time. Awareness brings freedom to this. It says in the good book that if you know the truth will set you free, right? So you have to know what's going on. And I'm talking to my wife, Becky, and I'm just like, isn't it interesting that right after we make these big decisions, this is right on time. This is right on time. Like, let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. Let's break through this together. Let's grow through this together. And at the end of our discussion, we came closer. We resolved things. We feel closer to each other. We're growing. We have much more certainty and direction to the things that we're doing. Every single time you make a big decision, you will face what's called this terror barrier. You will. But instead of fleeing from it, instead of being afraid of it, instead of being frustrated by it, become fascinated and break through in it. Grow in awareness, grow in truth, and make different decisions and different action steps, because once you get to the other side, and it doesn't have to take long, you can decide how long this takes, right? You can decide to just plow right through that. And when you do that, what happens on the other side? You meet the other side of you, the other version of you that is the person that's required to actually show up to be able to accomplish the things that you want in your quantum leaps. And man, life is so much better on that side. That's what you call freedom. So be aware to this today. As you go towards your quantum leap, be aware that there is a terror barrier. Be aware there is opposition. Be aware these are things that just happen in life. Don't be afraid by it. Lunge towards it and enjoy that journey. The last thing I said as we were falling asleep to me and my wife was, I'm like, we're going to look back to these days and we're just going to laugh to ourselves on these things. We're just going to be like, man, that had to happen that way. And the same thing for you and your struggles and your challenges as well too. Same thing's going to happen. Okay. So I hope this encourages you. I hope that you can think about something that is that you're being challenged with and break through in that. If this helped you, share this, like this, subscribe to our YouTube, tune in with us every single day. I promise you commit to this and you continue to plug this into your ear and bring other people along with you on this journey as well too. Share with them this daily wisdom, whether live or on replay. I'm committed to making sure to help you achieve a quantum leap in your life. You follow these principles, you follow these truths, you follow along. We're going to do this together. It's going to be the most amazing 2023, and I can't wait to hear your story as well. We'd love to hear comments below. On that, we'll be back on tomorrow. Have an amazing and blessed day. Cheers to your break.